When judging a pair of boxing gloves, it's not just about the eye test. Yes, you can somewhat see the quality of the glove, but more important than that, you can also hear it. The sound and feel is about the padding. And what really separates high quality gloves from low quality gloves is not the outer shell, but the padding. Most of the cost of a glove is about the padding they used and the engineering of the glove and how they stuffed padding into the shell. Really, the glove is the padding, not the shell. Without the padding, the shell just looks like a deflated balloon. Without the shell, the padding should still look like a glove. You can actually have cheap gloves that use genuine leather or have pretty good stitching, but it's very, very rare to find cheap gloves with good padding because that's where most of the cost of the glove goes into. But that rare glove is what we're always on the lookout for here, with that combination of good shell, good padding, and being underpriced. Now, when you buy discount gloves online, you really don't know much about the gloves, and they often don't tell you much about the actual manufacturing of the glove. And even for premium gloves, you don't know how long they've been sitting in the warehouse and what the conditions of the warehouse are like. I've bought premium gloves before where I could tell it's been sitting in humidity for a while. You also don't know if this is a return glove they're just reselling. However, premium gloves will often, not always, but often tell you about their specifics because that's the selling point. It'll tell you about the padding. It's standard to use 3 layers, but some use 4 or 5 layers. They'll also tell you the material of the padding. Not always, but often. Sometimes it's not always foam. Sometimes there's horsehair in it too. With discount gloves, it's often anyone's guess. What they will tell you and what their selling point often is the outer shell because, like I said, having a good outer shell is much cheaper than having good padding. Or, like I said, because the padding is the glove, is much cheaper than making a good glove. So it's like selling a car and only telling you about the body, but knowing nothing about the engine. Now, most cheap gloves use IMF, which means injected molded foam. It's liquid foam injected into a mold, which then hardens into a single, often solid piece. This is not only cheap, but quicker to make than layered foam. It also takes less labor. You can hear what that sounds like: stiff, with no bounce. It's dull, no reverb. You can also hear it by squeezing the foam. You can also see how stiff it is. There's resistance against being pushed. It causes no dimples or wrinkles. It all presses down together. Good foam feels more like memory foam. However, there are different qualities of IMF. They're not all the same. They're not all bad either. Most just become one solid piece, but some are soft on the outside and dense on the inside. If it's good IMF technology, they'll usually highlight that. You can also make IMF flexible or use multiple materials, or a combination of regular foam and IMF or IMF and gel. Why do you want multiple layers or a soft outer layer and hard inner layer? Because it'll cause a crumple zone to protect your hand and your sparring partner. If it's one solid piece, you can injure yourself and your partner, and also it'll never mold to your hand. But this glove is not high end IMF. Another giveaway for IMF or bad IMF is that it's a bubble top and looks nothing like an actual fist. Shaped multi-layer foam usually makes the hitting surface flat, so you're hitting with your actual knuckles, not your finger joints. With cheap, quick-made foam, they don't have that type of control. Cheap IMF also doesn't have the ability to control the weight of the glove. So often, the gloves are mismatched weight and not the weight they described online. When it's multi-layered, you can really be precise with the weight and the distribution of the foam. But with cheap IMF, you can't control how the foam is distributed on the glove. So it could get top heavy with no wrist support. Padding can also be in the wrong places. Mesh palm is another way to cut costs. It means less material and less padding. So there is good IMF, bad IMF. So looking at it, The bubble test is one way to know, the sound, and the firmness. So this type of glove takes a lot of time to break in, whereas layered foam is ready to use out of the box. For this glove, both the outside part of the padding and the inside end are both stiff. So even the side that hits your knuckles is stiff, not just the side that hits the target or the partner. So it'll hurt your knuckles for a while. So thick hand wraps are vital. And you really have to smash it against the bag for a while. With premium gloves, hand wraps are a bonus, or really to protect the glove itself from your sweat. But premium gloves will protect your hand even without hand wraps. So you really have to break this glove down. Then there's this window where it's good and usable, but then it breaks down further and becomes unsafe. It'll get lumpy. You might see foam spill out of it. It'll be uneven. But even with premium gloves, a good boxing coach will demand you use a pair just for the bag or mitts and a different pair for sparring. 16-ounce mandatory, or even higher sometimes if you're big. If you only train Muay Thai, I don't think coaches ever talk to you about this, at least not in the US. And to be honest, I don't think most are even that educated on equipment. So listen to the boxing coaches when it comes to gloves. So when you're looking at gloves, the most important thing is not the outer shell. What matters most is what's on the inside. Just like fighters, what's on the inside is what counts. Some gloves have nice skin, but no dog in them, just brittle glass on the inside. So when you see reviews of gloves that talk about entry level gloves, they mean a temporary glove that'll last you long enough to see if you like this sport or not. And if you do, at that point, get better gloves. Also, at the beginning, you probably won't be sparring anyway, so the quality won't matter anyway because the only person you might hurt is yourself. So if you're just looking to buy some gloves online just to try them and see if you like them and return them if you don't even need to take them to the gym. Just feel it, listen to it, look at the shape, and then decide if you need to return them. And you shouldn't have any issues because they're unused. So just by understanding the equipment, you will understand your sport and how to train better. Because for striking sports, the equipment will dictate how you train. And the logic of training will also appear in the design of the equipment. And since you need gloves for striking sports, the more you like your gloves, the more you'll want to train. It's like a sword fighter. The more you understand your sword, the better sword fighter you are. Likewise, the better you understand your equipment, the better fighter you are. With that said, if you like my educational content, I'd really appreciate it if you could like, share, and most of all, subscribe.